The International Criminal Court is seeking arrest warrants for Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. This is in connection with the October 7 attacks and the subsequent war in Gaza. In a statement, ICC prosecutor Karim Khan says he has reasonable grounds to believe that Sinwar and Netanyahu, as well as Mohammed, Diab, Ibrahim, Al-Masri, commander-in-chief of the military wing of Hamas, known as the Al-Qassam Brigades, and Ismail Haniyeh, head of the Hamas Political Bureau, and Yoav Gallant, the Minister of Defense of Israel, bear criminal responsibility for the following war crimes and crimes against humanity. Well, to discuss this matter further, I'm joined by SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena. Thanks very much, Sophie, for coming into studio to speak to us. Just take us through what the prosecutor, Mr. Khan, had to say.
Well, Jelly, you know that there were reports that the ICC, that is the International Criminal Court, will issue a warrant of arrest for Benjamin Netanyahu. But we knew then that it is not going to be just in relation to leaders in Israel, but also Hamas, because the investigation started last year after that 7th October killings by Hamas, but also looked at what or how Israel had responded. You know that countries such as South Africa in December last year requested the International Criminal Court to do thorough investigations. And now the prosecutor says he's got reasonable grounds to request the court to give approval for a warrant of arrest. You know that he has to apply to the court, and therefore the court must give authorization. Perhaps let's take a listen at what the prosecutor said about this big breaking story.
To confirm today that I have reasonable grounds to believe, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of the State of Palestine from at least the 8th of October 2023. The crimes include starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, willfully causing great suffering, serious injury to body or health or cruel treatment, willful killing or murder, and intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population, as well as crimes against humanity of extermination and or murder, persecution, and allegations of crimes of committing other inhumane acts. It's alleged that these crimes were committed in the context of the ongoing armed conflict and as part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Gaza, pursuant to a state policy. Unfortunately, these crimes continue to this day. My office submits that these individuals, through a common plan, have systematically deprived the civilian population of Gaza of objects indispensable to human survival. We have reached that conclusion based upon interviews with survivors, many eyewitnesses, experts, from satellite imagery, statements from Israeli officials, including the 2 individuals subject to the present application, as well as based upon several hundred authenticated videos, photographs, and audio recordings, many of which were taken and shared by victims and eyewitnesses themselves. This systematic deprivation resulted from a decision to impose a total siege on Gaza by completely closing the 3 border crossing points, Rafah, Kerem Shalom, and Erez, for extended periods of time, and by arbitrarily restricting the transportation of essential supplies, including food and medicine, through the border crossings after they were reopened. The siege, the total siege, also involved cutting off cross-border water pipelines from Israel to Gaza, which is the principal source of clean water for the population in Gaza. It was cut off for prolonged periods beginning on the 9th of October 2023, and it was accompanied by the cutting off or hindering of electricity supplies to Gaza from the 8th of October 2023 until today. That conduct took place alongside attacks that killed civilians, including people queuing for food, the obstruction of aid delivery by humanitarian organizations, and attacks on aid workers that forced many of those same humanitarian organizations to either cease operations or limit their life-saving efforts in Gaza. The tragic effect of the use of starvation as a method of warfare against Gaza's civilian population is acute, it's visible, and it's widely known, and it's confirmed by multiple witnesses and victims, including local and foreign medical doctors. That starvation has caused and continues to cause deaths, malnutrition, dehydration, and profound suffering among the population. Famine is already present in some areas of Gaza, and it is imminent in others. My office charges Netanyahu and Gallant as co-perpetrators and as superiors in the commission of these alleged crimes. Israel, like all states, has the right to defend its population. It has every right to ensure the return of hostages that have been criminally and callously taken. Those rights, however, do not absolve Israel of its obligations to comply with international humanitarian law.
Sophie, this is a very significant turn of events. They're seeking, that is the ICC seeking to get a warrant of arrest for Benjamin Netanyahu and Mr. Sinwar. But it's one thing to actually issue a warrant of arrest. How enforceable will it be, given that Mr. Netanyahu especially has been quite vocal about continuing with his campaign in the Gaza Strip?
Well, you are correct, Nompu. He has indicated when the rumors circulated that this was going to happen, he said at that time that he's not going to comply, and he was supported by the United States of America. So we expect a similar reaction in terms of how the allies of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu is going to respond. At a time where he's under pressure in Israel, we saw those protests in Israel, people calling on him to step down, and also the fallout with the Minister of Defense this week. And therefore, we expect Benjamin Netanyahu to be defiant, but here he cannot travel to any country that is a member state of this International Criminal Court, particularly countries that have signed up to the Rome Statute. In South Africa, it's even more complicated because we have a situation where we have domesticated this Rome Statute. And therefore, traveling for him to countries who are member states of the International Criminal Court is a no-no, because those countries must support, comply, and cooperate with the court by arresting Netanyahu and the defense minister and any person who will be included in the arrest warrant as soon as the court has decided to give a green light in terms of the issuing of that arrest warrant. And as you heard, the prosecutor is quite confident, he has collected evidence. And this comes at a time where already in the Middle East you have a strong view at the moment in relation to the tension that is building up in the Middle East. You know, the death of the Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi also has contributed to the tension today, and this one is going to add, pressure in that region. But at 1400, that is 2 p.m. South African time, Shawan Bryce Pease will be speaking to the sister show, SA Today, to elaborate further and look at the implications. And at 14:30, we will cross live to Tel Aviv, where Sarah Coates will be giving us the reaction from the Israeli authorities and also look at what transpired in Iran yesterday and this morning, the news that President Ibrahim Raisi died during the helicopter crash.
Sophie, before I let you go, obviously the United States have been giving Israel their financial oxygen in terms of being able to fund the military campaign in Gaza. What are the implications for the United States with the ICC now seeking arrest warrants for Netanyahu?
When they embark on more investigations, clearly maybe some of the witnesses or those who will be charged might implicate the United States of America. United States of America can't escape this, and that is why you had earlier on, when there were reports that these warrants of arrest might be issued to authorities in Israel, America responded, even threatening some congressmen and women in the United States of America, calling on President Biden to impose sanctions on the officials of the International Criminal Court. You know that America did that with the previous chief prosecutor and the other prosecutors at the International Criminal Court when the ICC was investigating the crimes against humanity in Afghanistan, where soldiers of the US, the UK were involved. And I expect a similar reaction because of the time difference. I think right now the President of United States of America will get a briefing, and I expect Pentagon to issue a statement or Washington to issue a statement, the President's office. So fortunately, Show and Bryce Pease will be following this big story today and will get more reaction from around the world. And South Africa, of course. Unfortunately, we spoke to the President earlier on Iran, DRC. Little did we know that there's this big breaking story that's likely going to develop today, because you'd remember that in December, South Africa requested the International Criminal Court to intervene before going to the ICJ, International Court of Justice.
Sophie Mokoena, thank you very much for those insights there. She's our SABC News International editor.